Hello and welcome. You're watching Global Lens. I'm Parikshit Luthra. India's ambition to become a global AI powerhouse is being held back by a deepening skill gap. A Bain & Company report released earlier this year estimates that AI jobs could touch 2.3 million by 2027, while the talent pool may grow to only 1.2 million. That's a shortage of over 1 million skilled workers. Another study by Team Lease found that for every 10 open Gen AI roles, there's just one qualified engineer, and the gap could widen to over 50% by 2026. With growing uncertainty in India-US ties and tighter H-1B visa rules, building AI capability is a strategic imperative. So what can India do to prepare its youth for this new AI-driven economy? To discuss this, I caught up with Romesh Wadhwani, philanthropist and head of SAI Group. He's an Indian-American billionaire with an estimated net worth of around $5 billion. Wadhwani's not-for-profit tech organization is working with the Indian government to develop a national jobs platform, an AI-powered initiative designed to create jobs at scale and equip individuals with in-demand skills. Listen in to the conversation. We're talking to you at a time when probably the US-India relationship is going through a bit of recalibration. Everyone knows that this is a very important relationship for the future. But as a strong member of the Indian diaspora in America, someone who's seen the ups and downs in the relationship over the past 4 to 5 decades, where are we right now?
I think we are in a situation which is quite normal in every relationship, that there are ups and downs. And there have been downs in the relationship in the past. There have been many ups in the relationship in the past. And I don't think we are completely in a down relationship right now. I think there are many areas in which cooperation is absolutely continuing. There are certainly areas like tariffs where, there are challenges that India is facing right now. But as with most other relationships that go up and down, the downs do get sorted out. So I am a great optimist that the sources of friction that exist right now between the US and India will get resolved in the relatively near future, and that the partnership that the two countries have historically had will go to new heights.
Right. Irrespective of this, there is a lot of geopolitical uncertainty around the world. What do you think India needs to be doing in order to protect, make itself stronger in a volatile environment? And we're not just talking about a 4 to 5 year horizon, a 10-year or 25-year horizon for that matter.
I think India's great strength is its intellectual horsepower. In the end, every economy is looking for growth, for job creation, for the improvement of the lives of its citizens. And I think in that sense, India has so much to offer. I mean, take, for example, artificial intelligence, right? Now, I could take the technology of artificial intelligence and put it into 3 buckets. There's the area in which the US is very, very strong, which is large language models. They were invented in the US. They are, you have great companies like OpenAI and Google who have the world's best LLMs. You have hardware. So in hardware, you have NVIDIA in the US, but in South Korea, you have companies like Samsung. But then you have software. You have application software. You have other kinds of AI models that are not large language models. And in those, India has incredible talent. So imagine a scene in which India actually leapfrogs many other countries in this third dimension of AI. And by bringing that kind of AI to all the other parts of the world, what kind of alliances and relationships and value might it be able to provide to the rest of the world? I think extremely high. But to do that, India is going to have to move very fast and is going to have to pick where it can win as trying to compete across the board, because there's some areas in which it may not be worth trying to compete when so much can be done in areas where India does have some very fundamental strengths.
Right. So which would be those win areas for India? And how much do you think India needs to invest? And how much of this is about investment monetarily and how much of it is about policy easing?
I think there is another dimension that goes beyond investment, which I suspect may be even more important than investment, which is the velocity of innovation. I've gone through 5 generations of AI. When I was at Carnegie Mellon University many years ago getting my PhD, 2 of the early professors of AI, Herb Simon and Alan Newell, were professors at Carnegie Mellon. So I learned very primitive AI back then, more than 50 years ago. And then as I've built many companies over the last 50 years, I've built over 30 companies, very successful software companies. I've gone through these generations of AI, but at no point in that 50-year period did I feel that the velocity of change was approaching the speed of light. I feel that now. I feel the intensity of what's happening. I feel the speed of what's happening at 10x, 50x, 100x greater than anything I've seen before. So when I sit in Silicon Valley, I used to do disruptive technology reviews once a year. That then became every 3 months, then every month. I'm not doing it daily. So I have a 1-hour meeting every single day, trying to understand what happened in the last 24 hours, and then trying to apply it the right way, either to the foundation or to my companies. In that same spirit, if India is going to play a big role, the velocity of innovation is as important as investment. After all, you could put 100,000 crores into some massive AI initiative, but if that gets rolled out over a 10-year period, it's worth less than 0. If, on the other hand, things can be done where technology can be created in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, and technology of massive impact, India can win. So I think there's a change in culture needed, because change in velocity needs a change in culture, change in mindset. There is certainly very large investment needed, but I would certainly not recommend India make the kinds of investments that companies like OpenAI and Anthropic are making, because there's no point having yet another LLM. Yes, should India tune some of these existing LLMs for the Indian context? Absolutely. That does not require a large investment at all. But to build some of these other kinds of applications and to seize the ground for the next generation of AI that comes after today's generation, no reason why India cannot be the front runner.
Right. When we look at the current valuations of some of the top AI companies, or the kind of investments being made on a daily basis, CEOs are under immense pressure to make that AI transition as much as possible, as fast as possible. When are we likely to see a correction in these tech stocks on Wall Street, for that matter, and globally? There is a lot of talk that we have entered an AI bubble territory, and very soon we are going to see a correction. How far are we? And from your estimate, how many of such companies on Wall Street could possibly see that correction or face reality?
I'll answer your question 2 ways. I'll give you an example of what happened back in the late 1990s, preceding the internet bubble. From 1997 onwards, there was exactly the same kind of question being asked by everybody. There's a bubble, when is it going to burst? Didn't burst in 97, didn't burst in 98, didn't burst in 99, didn't burst in the first 2 months of 2000. Fortunately, I was building a great company back then. It was acquired in February of 2000, literally the day before the bubble started bursting. So I was an incredibly lucky, beneficiary of timing. No smarts, good luck. But then the bubble deflated slowly over a 3-year period. There was no magic instant where everything crashed and burned. Things started going down in the second half of 2001, 2002. So that journey was a 7-year journey, right? From 97, 98, all the way up to 2003. Here, I do feel that a bubble is developing. Have we reached the point where the bubble is ready to burst? I don't think so. Are we close? I'm guessing 12, maybe 18 months. After that, how does it burst, right? I mean, is it a massive explosion and everything falls apart? Is it a slow deflation? My gut's telling me it's going to be more of a slow deflation. I think there are a lot of companies in a lot of AI startups right now that are building what is nothing more than a feature in either today's LLM or tomorrow's LLM, right? Because these LLMs keep evolving incredibly rapidly at the speed of light, as I said. So I think a lot of companies are going to fail not because of a bubble, but because they just didn't realize or didn't think about the fact that they're not building something with enough of a moat around it and not enough differentiated value add. My feeling is that if you build a great company with great intellectual property, a moat around it, and you happen to go public, your stock may go up, it may go down, but taken over a period of time, 5 years, 10 years, you are going to do just fine. Great. If you have a weak company, it doesn't matter if there's a bubble or no bubble, you're not going to do particularly well. Because in the end, competition will catch you with your pants down.
One story from your career and experience, which is very relevant for entrepreneurs today, wanting to be on the bandwagon, the AI bandwagon, be successful, achieve high valuations, hit the Dalal Street or the Wall Street. What would be one story that you'd share from your experience?
So I'll give you two stories. The first is the first company I built. So I got my PhD at Carnegie Mellon University, decided not to work for anyone else, even though I had no history of entrepreneurship in my family. I was the first entrepreneur in the family. I built my first company straight out of Carnegie Mellon University. Because I had no previous business experience, it was incredibly hard to get venture capital. So I had two strikes against me. First, no previous business experience or startup experience. And I was in Pittsburgh, which at that time was not a high-tech center. I had to call on 125 venture capital firms all over the US, every nook and cranny of the US. I saw every state, every VC. The 125th one said yes. The first 124 said no. So that means you have to get used to rejection. You have to have incredible resilience. You have to have incredible tenacity. I didn't actually know I had all those qualities till later. All I knew was I was not giving up. So each time someone said no, I said, okay, that's not acceptable. I'm going to go on to the next one. So I think message for entrepreneurs is don't just go for, easy stuff or, don't just expect, you may be very lucky and in fact have great success very early, but just because it doesn't happen immediately doesn't mean that you're not destined for great success later anyway. So I think resilience, tenacity, very important. And then if you look at my experiences since then, my basic philosophy has been build a great company. If you build a great company, you will get great valuation. Don't try, so play the role of building a great company. Do not play the role of a Dalal expert trying to time the market. You will always get it wrong.
Right.
If the folks on Dalal Street were that good in getting market timing right, they would all be billionaires, and most of them are not.
Right. So. No, that's great advice. Yeah. I'd like to focus on a priority that you also have, especially during your visit to India, is to how to achieve the right mix of skilling for the future. Every year, millions of people are coming into the workforce, but they don't have the skills that are required to be employable. How do we bridge this gap for the future, and where do you think we need to focus on improving skilling?
So just to put this in context, I started Wadhwani Foundation about 25 years ago. So I've been working in India philanthropically through Wadhwani Foundation for 25 years. Through these years, we've established the Wadhwani Entrepreneur Network to create 2.5 million new jobs. We've established the Wadhwani Skills Network to skill 15 million students and place 10 million of them in jobs. Now, 10 million is a very large number. And more recently, as you know, at the Yugam event in Delhi, which was inaugurated by Prime Minister Modi, April, we launched the Wadhwani Innovation Network, which is the third of my 5 flagship initiatives for the foundation. If I focus in on skilling, We have many skilling initiatives going on. So on one side, we provide skilling to students in ITIs, industrial training institutes, vocational training institutes, high schools, polytechnics. We work with employers to try and identify where the job openings are. We try and connect employers to students graduating. And what we have found is that there is while the Indian government is investing huge amounts in skilling, as they should, because it is a very, very important priority. So the intent is absolutely right, but there are multiple disconnects in the system. What the nature of the vocations that the VTIs and ITIs are training students for doesn't always match with the jobs available in their region from the employer community in that region. Maybe they would match something in some other region, but many students are not mobile. So when you have limited mobility and you don't have a good match, that's one reason why, in spite of all the investments being made, that not enough students are getting placed in jobs. There's a second reason, perhaps that's a bigger reason. Students may be prepared to learn the vocational skill, but they are not being taught the soft skills, the employability skills that every employer is looking for. Digital literacy, English literacy, some level of supervisory capability, some ability for problem solving, some level of ability to manage a project even if, or a task without being told, every single thing that you have to do. Increasingly, I believe every single student in India, whether vocational or not, will absolutely have to be taught AI at a certain level, depending on whether you're in kindergarten or you're in high school or you're in vocational training. Our foundation found this gap in employability skilling, and we have now become absolute specialists. And I think we do the best job in India and in 15 other countries where the foundation operates in providing this employability skilling to help students at the vocational training institutes get jobs. There's a third factor, which is that the market is very, very dynamic. And the curriculums that most of the vocational training institutes and ITIs have were established 10 years, 15 years, 20 years ago. Well, on the one side, you've got all these companies stressed out trying to get into the AI era. On the other side, they're seeing students who've been taught with a 10-year-old or 20-year-old pedagogy and 10-year-old curriculum. There's a complete mismatch. So I think VTIs and ITIs are going to have to completely retool themselves for the AI era and for the new needs of could be a large enterprise, could be an MSME, a medium enterprise, small enterprise, micro enterprise. I also think, by the way, that there is a phenomenal opportunity. In fact, one of the new initiatives I have just launched is the micro entrepreneurship initiative. India has 40 million micro entrepreneurs. They hire, they have a total of about 100 million employees, so about 2.5 employees per. What if you could take 10% of them and work with them to enable them to grow faster by skilling them in AI, by skilling them in global markets, by skilling them in product quality, by skilling them in this, that, and the other. All we need is for 10% of them to add 2 jobs, 3 jobs, 4 jobs over a 5-year period. And you're talking about, another 10, 15 million jobs being created. The opportunity is so large that after discussing it with my foundation team, literally in the last few months, we made a decision that this is now becoming the next big flagship initiative of Wadhwani Foundation. But these are the 3 reasons that I feel that the students coming out aren't being fully employed. If these 3 could be corrected and if they could be connected together, so you need to create local ecosystems that connect the VTIs and ITIs with the employers. In that process, upgrade the students and the curriculums and the pedagogy on one side, and connect it with the needs of employers on the other side. Keeping it regional, I think we will double the number of students who could be hired.
Coming up ahead of COP30, we take a look at India's standing among other nations in clean industrial projects and also when it comes to decarbonization. We decode this with James Schofield, MD, Industrial Transition Accelerator, on the other side. Welcome back to Global Lens. Ahead of COP30, we take a look at India's standing among other nations in clean industrial projects. According to a report by the Industrial Transition Accelerator in collaboration with Boston Consulting Group, India is growing its pipeline of commercial-scale clean industrial projects, with around 65 such projects under development, putting India in third spot after China and the US. This represents a tremendous opportunity for sustainable industrial development over the coming decades. However, the report highlights that much of this activity is concentrated in the green chemical sector. It is largely clustered in states such as Odisha, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka and Maharashtra, which offer proactive industrial policies. The report estimates that capital requirements exceed $150 billion to bring the current pipeline to full-scale operations. Preliminary assessments indicate the potential to create over 2 lakh direct and indirect jobs across the value chain and about 5 to 6% of annual national greenhouse gas emissions once operational. We speak with James Schofield, Managing Director of the Industrial Transition Accelerator, to understand how India can accelerate investments in decarbonization across key transport and infrastructure sectors. Firstly, James, thank you so much for being with us. Would you be able to explain how the ITA arrived at the $150 billion capital requirement figure?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. And I'm glad you ask it in terms of investment need, because indeed, this is an opportunity. In the report that we're releasing today, the ITA has identified about 65 commercial scale deep decarbonization projects in India that are on the drawing board and that need investment. And the total cumulative investment need is above $150 billion US. And of course, with that comes all the associated benefits in terms of employment. We think around 200,000 jobs could be employed, and many other benefits in terms of making the Indian economy stronger, more competitive domestically and internationally, and more resilient as well, because you will be using more internal domestic resources like solar energy and reducing the need for the import of more volatile commodities like natural gas from abroad.
Right. What is the challenge, according to you, with regard to the current pace of decarbonization, and what will happen if we don't increase the pace and scale of investments?
So look, the challenge is one that's not just faced by India, by the way. This is a challenge around the world, and I think India is extremely well placed to face that challenge. As economic growth grows, we need to build more stuff, infrastructure, commodities, manufacturing items. We need to do that with increasingly decarbonized commodities like steel, aluminium, cement, and key chemicals. Now, I think India is very well placed to do so. It has some key advantages as it grows its economy and as it seeks to grow its international trade role and competitive position. It's got some of the lowest hydrogen production costs in the world. The levelized cost of electricity, a technical term, but the average cost of producing renewable electricity is cheaper in India than the global average. So it starts from a strong base. It's got a lot of resources, solar as well. It's got port infrastructure. And interestingly, it's got the potential to export into key demand markets like Europe, for example. And there is actually at the moment an EU-India trade negotiation ongoing for a trade framework agreement. And we think that could be a massive unlock for that green industrialization within India.
My final question to you would be that when it comes to India, there are already major infrastructure and transport sectors that you work with. In the context of India, if India does not work towards an increased pace of decarbonization across key sectors, how does the economy, Indian exports, stand to lose in the next 5 to 6 years? Any assessment on that?
Yeah, you'll see that in our report. It's a very good question. Clearly, companies and the government see this as a strategic growth opportunity. But indeed, if they don't move, if these projects do not get to final investment decision, there are costs to industry. There's international regulation. I'm sure you're aware of the EU's carbon border adjustment mechanism that will penalize high intensity, high emission commodities compared to lower emission commodities. There's also mandates around aviation fuel that are coming into effect both in the EU and around the world. And those countries and airlines that are not using lower carbon sustainable aviation fuels will also have to pay penalties. So there is a cost to not moving, but actually the cost or the opportunity to moving is even greater. Securing a foothold, staking a claim to the share of demand, to the share of the market for these cleaner industrial goods is an opportunity that India is really well placed to take advantage of.
James, thank you so much for being with us here on Global Lens.
My pleasure. Thank you.
With that, we come to the end of this special edition of Global Lens. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.